I would agree with you to an extent. Our economy would be worse off without undocumented immigrants. I agree with you with that. But that doesn't fix that the fact that our culture is shifting from what it used to be and what made this country so great.
Oh, so it's a culture issue. So what is the culture? What
Yes.
was the culture, and what is the culture shifting to with the introduction of immigration?
Well, I mean, we were like a 90% white Christian nation back in 1990, and now we're 58% white. And
So you just want so would
less
you
than half
do you think
Christian.
that like this country should be a white country?
No.
Well, that's what you just described. You're saying that
No,
the
I think that it should be. I think
of immigration into this country is less white people. We already have our very first guest, AJ, loaded into the stream, man. If you'd like to take it away and tell us why you support the Orange Menace, that would be great. Go for it.
if you want to talk about the big beautiful bill in specifics, I would be down to talk about that. If
So you support Trump because of the BBB? Hey, thank you so much for... Sorry, this is from the YouTube stream. Go ahead.
I mean, that's something that we could talk about.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to find your motivations insofar as why you support Trump. Do you support Trump because of the BBB?
No, I mostly support him because of economic policies as well as his stance on immigration.
A stance on immigration. What about his stance on immigration do you support?
well, I'm an OG like 2016 Trump supporter, so kind of like he's kind of backtracked. I think. I mean, you probably heard about him talking about mass amnesty to farm workers.
Oh, well, don't worry. He repealed that one. But that would have been great if he actually did that. That would have made our country
I
significantly
didn't hear anything
better.
about that.
Yeah, no, he walked that back. He
I
walked
know
that
the
back.
Borders Czar came out today, and he was like, "We need 7,000 arrests today," but I didn't hear anything about Trump repealing what he said.
This happened a while ago. Yeah, they pulled back not deporting farm workers or...
Well, no, but he said this in Idaho on July 3rd, right before the.
Oh,
BBB
really?
passed. Yeah.
Hey, man. Yo, thank you so much for telling me that. That's great. I really hope that he goes through that. That's awesome.
Oh, I think it's terrible, personally.
Oh, man, why?
I mean, it's part of the culture war.
Oh, the
It's part of-
culture war. Oh, the culture
Yeah.
war. Okay. Do you think that the culture of this country would be better off if the average American citizen was happier with more money in their bank account?
I mean, it depends, because it's less about what is happiness to you.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, would the culture of this country be better off if the average citizen had a higher quality
Well,
of life
are you
with more
saying-
money in
are
their
you
bank
saying
account
that
because the economy's doing better? See, that's a that's a thing about mass deportation is it
Well, are
is
you saying
so
that-
bad for the American economy. I mean, seriously, projected potential trillions of dollars off the GDP per year. I mean, think about the impacts that'll have on our poverty levels. I mean, poverty goes up, so does crime. Are you saying that the culture of this country needs more crime?
No, I mean that. Well, that's exactly why I'm for mass deportations.
Well, mass deportation causes more crime.
We've seen cities that have started mass deportations that the crime rates have lowered.
Like which ones?
You go look at Chicago. You go look at California.
Okay, and then how do you know? So in what time frame have their crime rates lowered? Because, I mean, if we want to talk about crime rates per capita, they actually go up with a mass deportation because undocumented immigrants are
Well, I'm
significantly
not
less
talking-
likely
I'm
to
not-
commit crimes.
We got to look at specific like cities, because
Yeah, even in specific cities. Of course, we'd expect their crime rates to go
where they're
up.
literally rioting in the streets.
We would expect the
And
crime rates
yes.
of these cities to go up with mass deportation because undocumented immigrants are significantly less likely to commit all crimes compared to citizens.
Okay,
So
but
when
would you
remove
agree
them, the
that-
crime rate per capita will go up without any material change outside of the removal of the undocumented immigrants?
Well, would Laken Riley still be alive if there were no illegal immigrants?
Yeah, so would Molly Tibbetts. But this isn't addressing what I just said because you said that the crime rates in these cities.
No, but I'm saying, but my point is that
Your
per capita
point, your point was that the crime rates would go
Yeah.
up would go down with
Well-
mass deportation.
Well, the total amount of crime would go down, but not per capita, because per capita includes every citizen. It's kind of the average.
So now you've
So-
shifted your claim, and that's fine. So your first
No,
claim.
my claim is that overall crime would go down, which is true, because we'll have less people. So
Okay, so
It would
that's
go
not.
down.
So that wasn't your original claim. It's fine if you shift it. Your original claim was that undocumented immigrants and removing undocumented immigrants from this country would increase crime rates, not the total amount of crime. That was your original claim, and no way to work around it. So now that we can understand that your original claim is false, let's now move on to your second claim here, that the total amount of crimes will go down. I also do not believe that the total amount of crimes will go down either. The reason why I do not believe that is because mass deportation is incredibly detrimental for the economy. Okay, and because mass deportation is so detrimental for the economy, because the Center for American Progress tells us that we could expect to see 1.1 trill through 1.7 trill excommunicated from our GDP, because our productivities would go down, our manufacturers would be weak, and our consumer base would be crippled, we could expect a significantly weaker economy. And with a significantly weaker economy comes higher levels of poverty. And what is a lot of crime a material result of? So with more poverty, we'd see more crime.
I would agree with you to an extent. Our economy would be worse off without undocumented immigrants. I agree with you with that. But that doesn't fix the fact that our culture is shifting from what it used to be and what made this country so great.
Oh, so it's a culture issue. So what is the culture? What was the culture, and what is the culture shifting to with the introduction of immigration?
Well, I mean, we were like a 90% white Christian nation back in 1990, and now we're 58% white. And
so you just want
less than half Christian.
Do you think that like this country should be a white country?
No.
Well, that's what you just described. You're saying that
No, I think
detriment
that it should be,
of immigration into this country is less white people.
No. I think that it should be a Christian country, not because with like different religions, different.
So was saying that 90% white, was that just a Freudian slip?
Well, that was kind of just an example of how the culture shifted, how much it shifted. Well, I don't necessarily.
So like the amount of white people doesn't denote a culture. That denotes like a racial demographic. So you're saying that the racial demographic of the country has shifted.
Well, would you say white culture is different from, let's say, African American culture, or
what is white culture?
What you're holding right now, your phone, the language that we are talking, everything around you, the house that you've been built.
Wait, my house is white culture?
Yes, the architecture from your house is white culture.
Okay, explain that one to me.
Architecture?
What about the architecture of my house is white culture?
Well, who was the? I mean, I guess you can look at who was the first. Like, who were the first people to create houses in the U.S.?
First people to create houses in the U.S. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like a lot of the houses that we saw pop up in early American history were built by enslaved African Americans.
No, but I'm not talking about built. I'm talking about the architecture. So the ideas, the
first houses in this country, not even like enslaved black people. That would be from indigenous people, Native Americans.
I'm talking about from settlers, and well, I mean, I'm not talking about teepees or like mud huts. I'm talking about the type of houses. So
can you define?
You live in an apartment?
Can you define culture?
A set of ideas as well as innovations by a certain group of people, I guess.
Do you think that America would be better if there's more white people in it?
No, because it's not necessarily the race that's the issue with the culture war. It's that we're moving away from Christian beliefs, Christian morals, stuff like that.
So I have a question. What race was Jesus?
White. I mean, he was born Middle Eastern. You could say that.
Yeah, let me get. Oh, so
just so you know, I'm agnostic.
Obviously, Jesus was white. Now, one may say, well, he was born in the Middle East. How can a white person be born in Palestine 4,000 years ago? Are you saying that it have to be a miracle? Oh, yeah, God does those. Is that the argument?
I've seen that TikTok, bro. That's so funny.
Oh, yeah. So is that the argument?
No, I'm not.
No. I mean, so I think it's kind of nuts to assume that Jesus was white. Why do you think Jesus was white?
Once again, I'm agnostic. I'm not Christian, so.
I don't understand the claim that you're agnostic and you're not Christian relates to me asking you why you think Jesus was white after you said Jesus was white. I think that only further complicates your view because you said we should be a Christian country. But we'll talk about that next. First, I'm focused on I asked you what race Jesus was. You said that Jesus was white. Why do you think Jesus was white?
Well, then I guess I'm not the right person to be asked that question.
So you just kind of assume it? You're like, he was white?
Yeah, I guess I've just gone around with what people have said. I don't
People say that in America because of like whitewashing and racism, not because he actually was.
What is racism?
We could have a discussion about what racism is after we finish out our conversation about why people in America think that Jesus is white. I'm not going to allow you that deflection.
Okay. Well, I told you I'm not the right person to talk about this because I'm not Christian myself.
Okay, if you're not Christian, why do you think we should live in a Christian country?
Because I think that Christians have better moral standing than atheists, and I think that the change in our culture.
So, that's a false dichotomy. So Christianity would be a standard of morality, like the moral truths derivative of the Bible. But atheism
Yes.
doesn't encapsulate like a moral standard, right? Atheism just simply
Exactly.
denotes the denial of
That's the
theism.
issue. That's the issue. Is there's no like standard of morality with atheism.
I feel like you're Islamophobic. Do you think that Muslims have a better
Islamophobic. How did you bring in?
I feel, it's just a feeling so far. Do you feel like Muslims have a better moral standing than secular atheists?
I haven't done enough research into that. I know that
You obviously
prophet
haven't done
was
enough research
married-
into Christianity either. You thought Jesus was white.
No, I haven't.
All right.
haven't.
And then you said that your one reason why you thought that Christians had a better moral standard than atheists was because they have a moral standard. Atheism is not on its own a moral standard. So that same reason would apply when contrasting Islam to atheism.
The problem with atheism is who's going to set the moral standard.
Who's going to set the moral standard? So
Yeah,
you
who's gonna set-
basically take a problem with the denial of moral realism, saying that like morals are objective. Well, the issue here is you affirm that you're not actually Christian and that you're agnostic. So what this
very
means
open about
is
that.
that you don't truly think that Christianity would encapsulate some version of moral realism. You don't truly think that when a Christian says murder is wrong because the Bible says so, you don't think that's an objective moral claim.
Well, my issue with Christianity is not something in that like realm. It's something different. And
So why do you
it's
think we
just-
should be a Christian country?
Once again, because they have a better moral standard than I would say that having something like the Bible to set your morality off of is something that's going to be for the better good of the entire society.
Can't we agree that under secularism we could agree to like a set base of principles in which a rational mind would derive like moral facts regardless if they're objective or subjective? And we could run a society in a secular sense similar to that. I think that would be the point of a secular government, would be to come to a
I don't think that we
conclusion
should have a secular
of a
government.
set of moral principles in which they all find to be the case, predicated on rationality, not predicated on reading a book. I would say that we could actually discover better moral truths in a secular society with a secular government because we'd use reason, fact, and logic to determine what is good and bad, right? Not the text written by man 4,000 years ago. Right? Like, I think that there's many ways that, like, the Christian Bible, morally speaking, could hold us back. Like, one very predominant one would be, like the denial of the moral permissibility of gay relationships. Maybe another way would be how in Leviticus in the Old Testament, God says slavery is okay, and this was used by early white Americans to justify slavery. So obviously, if we could deny these facts and say that they are not true and that we shouldn't operate our society off of them, this is how we're going to introduce secularism into society, where we use like reason, fact, and logic to determine moral truths instead of the text of a book and the interpretation of said text of said book to like promote whatever we want and say you should accept it because God says so.
I would agree with you to a certain extent. I think that morals have, I guess, shifted. We obviously, you personally, or your party, I guess, is still today, like, I guess, fighting for slavery to a certain extent. Would you not agree?
I disagree. I definitely don't fight for slavery. Is the argument
there
going to
are-
be like the labor of undocumented immigrants?
Exactly.
Right. Well, so did you know that there's two responses I'm going to give you to this? I'll start off with the second response. The second response would be that I support mass amnesty, meaning that I think undocumented immigrants should be offered a pathway to citizenship or residency so they have more bargaining power to use against their employer to garner higher wages. So I actually do think that the conditions that undocumented immigrants live in allow for easier exploitation on behalf of their employer to the employee via the relationship and the fact that the undocumented immigrant is not a citizen or a resident. Okay, but I want to go to the first response now, because if you do think the wages that undocumented immigrants garner would amount to slavery, well, the same legal protections that apply to citizens or residents also apply to undocumented immigrants, meaning that they make, right, at least minimum wage. Legally speaking, that's the standard. That would be what more institutional Democrats advocate for. And if you think that working for minimum wage is synonymous to slave labor, well, then would you say that the GOP, the Republicans, and even Donald Trump's own administration have been defending slavery since 2008, since they have been against any push to increase the federal minimum wage?
Well, all right. Well, let me go over what you were talking about with immigrant labor. You've known that the Republican Party for the last like 20 to 30 years, since like the 1990s, has been a mass amnesty party. They've been looking because
obviously not Trump. And then the one thing you said
No,
was that you disagreed with the amnesty of farm workers.
That was the shift. That was the shift. But if you look at who is profiting off of this illegal immigrant labor or even immigrant labor, you can see that the big corporations that line the pockets of both parties are the ones that benefit from this labor. So I don't understand how you can sit here and be like.
So then we'd say the party that is less pro big corporation and for increasing the federal minimum wage would be less for quote unquote slavery under your view. Well, the Republicans are more are corporate shills to a higher extent and haven't wanted to increase the federal minimum wage. Like seriously, respond to that, because you said working for minimum wage is synonymous to slave labor. I mean, we've even had Donald Trump's own administration say that they do not want to increase federal minimum wage. So does this mean that you think that the Trump administration stands for something that is essentially slave labor?
Well, no. So I'm actually an economics major. The minimum wage thing will never be settled because neither parties are going to raise it. You got to understand that. I mean, Democrats. There's Democrats that sit there and talk about it before. What?
The last time it was raised was by a Democrat.
I agree, but I'm saying that they're not gonna raise it anymore.
Okay.
One reason why is because that the big corporations, the ones that lobby for these people, these politicians, are the ones that are directly using the minimum wage against their workers.
Okay, can you answer my question, though? So you're just implying that this is a uniparty issue. Would you say a uniparty issue that we have in America today would be one where they both stand for slave labor?
Are you saying that they're both standing for slave labor? And I would agree with you.
I'm saying this is like an internal critique of your view. Would you say this, given your view, that like Trump and the Democrats apparently both like slave labor?
Well, I think this is a great time now to kind of say that I'm not MAGA, but I am a conservative, because Parker always kicked me off like 3 times after I said I'm not MAGA, but I am conservative. So
I know you're a little bit further right than MAGA, right?
No, I'm not further right.
Okay.
I'm further right in maybe some issues. I guess you could say immigration,
I don't know about that. I mean, so far you've told us that you missed when this country was a white Christian country.
I didn't even live then. I wasn't alive then. So. Okay,
that doesn't change what you said. You told me and everybody else listening that the issue with the change in the shift of the culture in America was that in the 90s, 90% of Americans were white, and now only 56% of Americans were white.
Is that not true?
I don't think it is true that that's an issue.
You don't think that that's a shift in culture is an issue for?
I don't think a shift in a racial demographic from 90% white people to 56% white people is an issue at all. Like what reasons do you have to try to convince me that that's a problem?
Well, I mean, I guess you can. Diversity never works in the first place. That's something that we can all agree on. Diversity doesn't.
Diversity never.
Cultures don't merge. Cultures don't assimilate to each other.
Diversity doesn't work.
That's why.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
So why do you think in cities with more diversity, we see more individuals that are willing to engage in community projects? We see more individuals that are engaged and willing to advocate for better social reform for the constituents of said cities. I mean, we see higher GDP per capitas. Overwhelmingly, we see people from better and more diverse areas.
Hold on.
And the reason that it is the case that we see this is because like an introduction of anti-diversity ideas, basically saying that we need to limit the amount of diversity that serves not only as incredibly like a moral statement, but also practically speaking, it's bad for the economy. Because it's just an unnecessary regulation on the economy, maybe in the labor force and the consumer base and the producer base that produces less efficient outcomes because you're no longer operating at market equilibrium dictated by the free market, but you're rather forcing the market to be what you want by forcing less diversity.
Well, I mean, you brought up GDP per capita. That's not a correct statistic to use in this situation because.
So why do you think that diversity doesn't work?
Why doesn't it work? I mean, you could look at LA. You can look at New York right now. I mean, we literally have Arabs that are worshiping on the street. We have rampant homelessness.
There's Arab individuals that pray in accordance with norms of Islam, and that's wrong. Why? Like you're never going to talk about like for instance the Mormons going door to door If we want to talk about invasiveness of religion, I don't think that a follower of Islam praying in accordance with the dictation of the Quran is going to be more invasive than Mormons coming to your door and wanting to talk to you about Joseph Smith for an hour, or Jehovah's Witnesses standing at every street corner on Sundays and Mondays, giving you their free Bible and trying to get you to be a member of their cult.
Well,
And in fact, I bet something that you'd say you liked about America in the 1950s was a Christian church on every street. So now you're telling us that people praying on every street apparently is a big issue, as long as it's not Christianity, even though you're not even a Christian.
Well, first of all, are we going to ignore the fact that 20 years ago, or a little over 20 years ago, those same Arabs literally bombed the city that they're now praying in?
Those same Arab individuals bomb the city that they're praying in. I
Radical
cannot
Islamists.
stand for this absolute terrible fucking rhetoric. That statement is unequivocally fucking false. Unequivocally false. You just told us that it was the same Muslims that did 9/11 that are now praying in New York City. And I mean, you'd probably say this about Zohran Mamdani. Let's evaluate your logic. Okay.
No, I like it.
Let's evaluate your logic. Okay. Well, it's the same white Christians that killed 186 people in the Oklahoma bombing that are now sitting in the Oval Office. We need to impeach Trump because he's a white Christian, and white Christians killed 186 people in the Oklahoma bombing. Does that logic make any sense to you?
Well, hold on. I wasn't specifically referring to the United States. I don't think they should be kicked out of the United States. But the fact that we're having so many radical Islamists move into these large cities due to Joe Biden's policies, you can't forget that.
We don't. What do you mean when you say like radical Islamists? I'm guessing that you mean like some like Islamic fundamentalists that holds to the Sharia law, right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's just so like hey, like this just isn't fucking true. Like point number one.
Do you think Sharia law is oppressive towards
point
women?
number one. Of course, I think it's oppressive towards women. Like the same way I think all fundamentalist groups of all major religions is going to be oppressive towards women. So it's like when you come up here and you tell me that there's an increase in these radical Muslims that hold to Sharia law in America. No, you have to understand that the reason we've seen immigration from countries that do implement Sharia law and do hold to like rather insane like fundamentalist takes of Islam is to escape that. Okay, you understand that? And then additionally, don't act like this issue is mutually exclusive to some fundamentalist sects of Islam. This is true of all religions of all time. We also see fundamentalist groups that are true of Christianity in America today and across the globe. I mean, we also see radical Christians that'll come out and say, very similar to the Groypers, that Jesus was white and Christianity truly does protect this Aryan race and we need to look out for white people. And Christianity tells white people that they're better than non-white people, right? I mean, we see these fundamentalist groups in all major religions, and I'll tell you, I detest them all, every single one of them, all right? But for you to act like there's this special issue with radical Muslims, fundamentalist Muslims in America today is just simply not true because the immigration that we have seen of Muslims into this country, for the most part, has been to escape Islamic fundamentalism. But you want to know where Christian fundamentalism breeds? The breeding ground is in America.